Bishop Ward, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Prim. We appreciate you. Mr. Santoli, thank you for being a part of our ratings and endorsement process and for being on our first Zoom conference. This is new to us, and I'm sure new to you as well as you're going through an endorsement process, and wishing you the best. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Once again, thank you, Bishop Ward, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this important process. It's so wonderful to make sure that everyone in the community, everyone has a voice, and that we have more ratings and endorsements than just what we've had in the past. So I really appreciate the time you've taken out of your schedule and how important these organizations are to make sure that voters are well informed when they're making these decisions. A little bit about myself. I'm 40 years old. I'll be 41 next month. I currently work at a law firm called Schraft Thomas Law. We are a probate estate planning law firm, so I do mostly probate litigation at that law firm, mostly litigation over wills and trusts. I've been there since spring of 2019. Earlier this year, I also started working, doing some criminal defense work at juvenile court. Most of the bulk of my legal career was spent at the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. I graduated from Cleveland Marshall College of Law in 2006, joined the prosecutor's office soon thereafter, and left the office in early 2020. The last 8 years at the office, I was a part of our major trial unit. I handled homicide cases, gang cases, sexual assault cases, and human trafficking cases. I've lived in and around Cuyahoga County my entire life. Both of my parents were born and raised in Cleveland. My wife was born and raised in Cleveland. I have a 10-year-old son. I did my undergraduate degree at Ohio University. Got a degree in history. Then went to Cleveland Marshall College of Law, where I not only got my law degree, but I got my MBA from Cleveland State as well. In my free time, I spend a lot of time coaching youth sports. I coach football, I coach baseball, I coach basketball. That's really my the most important volunteer work that I enjoy doing. I think it's incredibly important that we have individuals that take the time out of their schedule to be mentors to kids. I think it boils down to a real basic fact that when we've got good male role models, I think kids grow up and they do the right things. So I've always tried to coach youth sports and be a good role model. It's one of the reasons why in my free time, I decided to take cases in juvenile court, indigent cases. If I can reach out to 1, 2, 3 kids who are charged with a crime and get them on the right path, and that's all it's worth to me. So I try to spend most of my volunteer work, my community outreach with kids. That's really one of my passions. And so that's a little bit about me. I've always been passionate about public service. I would love to have your endorsement and your good rating and propel me on in November, because I think it's incredibly important that we have people that have been in the community, understand the community, and are going to make sure that decisions are made that the community is progressing forward. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm looking forward to answering any and all questions that you may have for me. Thank you, Bishop Ward.
You're welcome. How will you help right the wrongs of a flawed criminal justice system that has preyed upon poor people and minorities?
Well, that's an important question, right? We've had a long history of the criminal justice system disproportionately affecting low-income minority individuals. And you have to have that understanding when a person comes before you. What can you do to understand what needs to be done to get them on the right path? Because as a judge, if you're sentencing an individual and they're coming back before you, you failed at your job. You want to make sure that person does not come back before you. You want to make sure that person has got employment or bettered their life in some way. So how would I do that? Well, first, you have to understand where the person's coming from. You have to listen, understand, have empathy, and make sure a sentence is equitable for that person. And you use the court's resources. If the person needs drug treatment, you make sure they're getting drug treatment. If they need job training, you make sure they're getting job training. You know, prison should really be used as a last resort. I firmly believe that. And in order to conform today's criminal justice system to right the wrongs of the past, we need to make sure that we're using all of the court's programming that's necessary and that's available to make sure that person's going on the right path.
What new or different perspectives will you bring to the court that you desire to join Common Pleas Court?
Well, you know, as I mentioned before, I'm 40 years old. I'll be 41 next month. So I definitely think that I bring my generation's thought processes to the court, that there's a better way to do this than what we've been done, right? Than what we've been doing. There are better ways to do this. And I think you look no further than what's going on in 3 months with the county jail. You know, why did it take a pandemic to empty out that jail? Why was that jail, you know, running plus capacity for all this time, even when there was people dying in that jail? I think I bring a thought that, you know, only the people that have to be in the county jail should be in the county jail, not individuals who are low income, not individuals who are nonviolent offenders. And it shouldn't have taken a pandemic to clear out that county jail. That should have been done years ago. So that's one of the things I bring. And understand how that works with the rest of the court. All of a sudden, if you are only incarcerating a few individuals or less individuals during the pretrial stages, you are spending less money. And if you are spending less money, then you have more money to spend on other programs, job training, education, drug treatment. So it's a symbiotic relationship. So that's something I intend to bring forward to the court. Furthermore, much more technological uses. You know, Zoom, I'm very comfortable with it. Telephone calls, I think there has been a needless effort on the part of judges to have attorneys and individuals come to the courthouse all the time. If you're a mom and you've got daycare issues, you're a guy trying to get back on his feet, you've got to miss work, come downtown, you may lose that job. You know, your mom, if you got to bring the kids downtown or you got to find babysitters, you know, that creates all sorts of problems. There's no need to have endless pre-trials, bring people down and risk losing their jobs or losing their daycare or losing their childcare. So all of those things I think I bring to the table and I want to enforce and improve upon at the courthouse.
What are your experiences with criminal litigation relative to civil litigation?
Most of my career has been with criminal litigation. During my time at the county prosecutor's office, it was 100% criminal. So from graduating from law school in 2006 up until leaving the prosecutor's office in 2020, it was 100% litigation. I litigated 100, 125, 150 cases in my time, both at juvenile court and County Common Pleas Court. And when I talk about cases, these are cases that were high profile, complex, important cases in our community. I had a case that lasted for 3 months in trial. I've had cases that lasted for a month, 2 months. So when I say 125 trials, these aren't trials that lasted a morning or an afternoon. This is significant litigation time. And then since I've been with Sheriff Thomas Law, it's the flip. It's been 100% civil. So since I've been with Sheriff Thomas Law doing probate litigation, I've not only litigated in Collier County Common Pleas Court, but probate court in Collier County, probate court in Lake County, Summit County, Medina County, Geauga County, and we've opened up a few estates in some other counties as well. But it's broadened my experience county-wise.
What is your experience and your opinion on pro se litigants?
Pro se litigants?
Yes.
I have not litigated a case against a pro se litigant. All of the cases I've litigated, there's always been an attorney involved in.
Okay.
I think that's probably because of the types of cases I litigate at the prosecutor's office. These are mostly murder cases, sexual assault cases, human trafficking cases, carry with it some severe penalties. And I think you want the expertise of a lawyer there. You know, it's your right to be a pro se litigant, but as a judge, you've got to make sure that they're making the right decision. I would never stop somebody from being a pro se litigant. You can't, but you've got to check all the boxes and you've got to be very confident and sure that that person understands what they're doing because they are putting their liberty at risk. And that's something as a judge, I would make sure that they fully understand before they would go forward with the pro se litigation.
Do you think that if you are elected, you can fairly adjudicate cases of pro se litigants?
Yes.
Okay. How
Well,
would you hold
it would, you know, Bishop Board would be their decision whether they want a bench trial or a jury trial.
Right.
So I would, if they chose a bench trial, I would be more than happy to hear the evidence and adjudicate fairly. Yes, I'm 100% comfortable with handling pro se litigants.
How would you hold peace officers, police, to the same standards of law as citizens?
Well, once again, you've got to apply the law equally, fairly, and equitably to every single person. Nobody gets a higher standing than anybody else. Nobody starts with a leg up on anybody else. You know, a trial attorney will tell you, or a trial judge will tell you, when you're doing voir dire, and you're doing voir dire, you're interviewing jurors to see whether or not they can be fair and impartial. There's a standard question you ask of whether or not they can treat a officer's testimony the same as anybody else's. And it's an important question. A person who is a police officer should be treated and given the same status as everybody else. That's a central tenet in our criminal justice system, is that nobody, rich or poor, black or white, any sort of occupation, gets a leg up on anybody else. So I bring that to the table. I will treat everyone the same way.
What do you perceive as the greatest obstacles to justice in the division you're seeking to be a judge, if there are any?
Obstacles. Well, bail reform is a huge obstacle, as I stated. You know, that it's going back to my earlier comments regarding the pandemic clearing out of the jail. It shouldn't have taken that. It shouldn't have gotten to the point where now it's politically okay to have people outside the jail, to remove people from outside the jail. And I hope you ask these hard questions to any incumbent judges. Why did it take a health risk for people to leave out the jail? When they were dying 2 or 3 years ago, we weren't removing people from the county jail. Low income, nonviolent offenders serve no purpose being incarcerated. They just don't. They should be out in the community. They should be in programming. We should make sure we're putting forth the effort to get them back being a plus in the community, helping in the community, not sitting in a county jail, because that's money that can be spent in programming. Like I said, it's a symbiotic relationship. A big issue is what we're going to do with the courthouse. That's a big issue. Are we keeping the courthouse downtown? Are we keeping the jail downtown? Are we putting the courthouse and the jail on the Near East side? You know, those, are we putting on the Near West side? Are we putting it south? What are we going to do? Are we putting them in the same spots? And then how does that affect access to clients? So say you're a defense attorney and you need to see your client. If the courthouse is in one location and the county jail is in another location, how are you going to be able to see them if you have cases all day long? So that it creates a myriad of issues that I want to make sure that somebody who's 40 years old, 41 years old, 45 years old, someone who's going to be dealing with the new courthouse has a part in speaking how it's going to take shape. I really don't want individuals who are never going to see the new courthouse open, if that's the decision that's made, make those decisions. Because the last thing we already have issues with defense attorneys being able to see their clients. Can you imagine the myriad of issues that would take place if the courthouse is downtown and the jail is located somewhere else in the city? I mean, it could be a disaster. So bail reform, the location of the county courthouse, funding is going to be an issue. I mean, we all see this pandemic and we all see people out of business and restaurants closed and people not working. That's going to have a direct effect on the county budget. How is that going to affect the court budget in the future? I don't know, but we're going to have to make some tough choices. And like I said before, it all goes back to it. If we're incarcerating less people, we have more money spent on programming. So those are some big issues, obstacles I see going forward.
So what is your vision for the future of our judicial system? Since you're a 4-year-old young man and to get on the bench, what's your vision for the future of our judicial system?
Well, I mean, I would love to see it move into a system where it's a reform rehabilitation system, something that was originally planned for. Instead of just locking them up and throwing away the key and we can't fix anybody or we can't try to fix anybody, we come to a situation where we're an effective, efficient courthouse that uses best practices to fix, help, rehabilitate people. That's what I want to see. I want to see a best practices approach where we're nimble, we're using technological resources, we're using best practices, and we're getting the people the help they need so that we are lowering incarcerated populations.
Okay. What changes would you
That's it, Bishop.
advocate for and
Bishop.
why? Oh, that's it?
That's it.
That's
I can't
it?
give any more questions. Okay, I'm
Nah.
sorry.
I can't
Thank
get
you,
any bonus
Mr.
time? I can't
Santoli.
get
We
bonus
appreciate
time?
your participation.
Nope. Not at all.
All right.
Thank you, my
I
good
just want
man.
to say thank you so much for spending the time. It's incredibly important. I would love to have your endorsement.